I think I was scared to sleep in that room. I was definitely not going to sleep in grandma's room. That was like a non-negotiable. Like, I'll take the haunted room, but I'm not going to sleep in grandma's room.
That's so funny.
I just want to welcome everyone back to Bundle of Hers podcast. If you're a first-time listener, we are so grateful to have you tuning in. Today, we have Kasaya, who is my cousin. She is remarkably intelligent and incredibly talented at school. Okay. It's honestly a little unfair, but because I want you to be able to introduce yourself, because to me, you're like the mentor and goddess of like all things knowledge and family. Please go ahead.
Oh, Leslie, you're too kind. The podcasters can't see, but I'm blushing. Hello, everyone. I'm Kasaya. I'm an undergraduate student at the University of Utah. I'm studying biology and biochemistry and planning to graduate this summer. My plans for my career include medicinal chemistry.
Woof. That's... I'm Eliza. I'm supposed to be the host on this show, and my plan is to get through step one. That's my hopes and careers aspirations.
Valid.
And just before we begin, I just want to say all of our thoughts and ideas are solely ours and do not represent or in no way a reflection of the University of Utah. So today is my identity episode. I just got nauseated saying that, but I don't know. I get really nervous when people get to know me because I feel like I kind of just open up and I'm like, okay, this is me. And I get kind of scared. I don't know why. It's, I guess, being vulnerable. That's what this is. I'm scared to be vulnerable. And I just said it out loud. But as I was considering my identity and I was like, okay, how do I want the Bundle of Hers podcast to know me? I was like, the best way to know me is to know the people I love and to know people that are similar to me. Because that's what it is for me. This is all about community. This is all about the people. And so that's why I've invited Kasaya to be here, because I feel like in so many ways we are like mirror images of each other, or at least I like to think so. I like to think that I look like and am smart enough to be Kasaya. But another thing I think about Kasaya and I is, especially our family, is that there's this like theme of compassionate ambition, this term that I've kind of come up with, where there's a fierce commitment to excellence that vehemently denies individualism and originates in community betterment. And so it's all for the betterment and like edification of others. And it's a fierce belief that it can be done together, right? There's no need to be valedictorian because we can do it as one. And so I just want to start off, because talking about our migrant legacy, our parents, our siblings, my dad, your mom, but your dad also immigrated, right? There's the Akau family migrant legacy. And I'm interested to know how our grandparents, or both sets of your grandparents, how their sacrifice to immigrate here, or your dad's sacrifice to immigrate here, has kind of shown up in your life as you pursue school and the American dream, so to call it.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think the legacy shows up in the responsibility, I think, that both me and you carry, bearing our family names and their legacy, going into fields where we are not commonly represented. And it is a heavy burden, I think, but it's also exciting to be able to do this for our family and to represent them.
It is heavy. And I think I don't think about that, because when you're, I don't know, I call it it's the Mafana spirit, right? When you're when you're in these spaces, you just have a good time and you're really good at connecting with other people. But it is heavy, and I don't think people quite understand it, or at least in the spaces that we are in, because it's very niche, right? To have, I think, immigrant parents, but then to have immigrant parents from a South Pacific island where literally everyone knows everyone, right? It's not even small town. We're talking tiny. So everyone knows everyone. And that even bleeds, I think, into America outside of Tonga, because everybody knows everybody. So now we know everybody who's in America, right? Because there's only 100,000 of us. So we can keep tabs. But it's heavy because you're in this field, right? And there's not a ton of women in medicine. There's not a ton of Tongan women in medicine. There's not a ton of Tongan women whose parents immigrated. And so it's like, wait, this is my community, this science community, but nobody shares the same responsibility. It's heavier, you know?
It is heavy. It's also isolating, I think, too.
How have you dealt with like what does that, because it's terrible. Tell me what that looks like for you.
It's terrifying, truly. I think it's scary to me because I'm worried that if I mess up, then that will reflect on my family. Or if I won't make it, that will reflect on my family. But something that I found comfort in is finding mentors who belong to other minority groups, such as women and people of color. And so finding mentors who can relate to me in that identity has been comforting.
When I think about like, and this is terrible, it might be something I need to like figure out with my therapist, but like when I'm like so tired or like I'm like nobody here gets me, like when I just feel so isolated and alone, I think about like I mean, my dad was 16 when he immigrated here. How old is your mom? Because your mom's younger than my dad.
Yeah, I think she was 9 or 10, like very young. Like I still think 16 is very young too.
Yeah. And I just think I'm like, okay, well, if like my dad can like move to the United States of America from Tonga, not knowing English and not knowing like pretty much anything or about anyone, right? I think I can put in 4 more hours of studying, right? Like, that's how I frame it. Does that ever appear in your study psych? Like how you think about approaching school, or when you're like, does it come into play a lot?
I'm always reminded, I think, by my parents. They're like, well, I flew across the ocean. I had to trek 3 miles to go to school. It's always something like that. But in all seriousness, I am reminded by them and their sacrifices. And it is scary. It is scary to think that they did all of that to bring us here, to provide us these opportunities. But then I feel like that adds to the burden. Like, then I have to make it, you know, I have to be able to put in these hours. But I don't know, where do you draw the line? Like, where do you, between your mental health or your just health in general, and then pursuing your dreams on your behalf of their family?
Truthfully, that's something that I'm like still very much figuring out. And I think when I say this, like people think, oh, well, like you're in medicine because like you're pursuing STEM, right? Like science degrees because of family, like there's this family pressure. And I'm like, I think that's such a misinterpretation of it, because I want this, like I want this so badly. And I'm driven by multiple factors, including my family. And so it's something that I'm always trying to navigate and think about. Like it really just like hits me in the gut every time. And I don't know why. Well, I do know why, but like, I don't know why it's so impactful for me. But like when I'm in the library, like really late, or like when I'm like passing the halls, and I think it's because I think of grandpa, and I think about like the sacrifice, not just to come here, right? What they were giving up, but the sacrifice it costs to stay here. And it hits me in the gut every time I see like a person of color, like cleaning up, right? Like in the janitorial service. Cause I'm like, I don't know. I see them and I'm like I know, like, I feel like I know you and I feel like you know me, but you can't say this, right? Cause they don't know. I'm like the person who like, you know, probably like, they're like, get out of here. Why are you here at like 10 p.m.? But I'm like, I think about you on my drive home. I think about you on my drive here. You are on my mind. And it's because I just think like, yes, it came at a high cost to leave. But I think that a lot of people don't understand is like, oh, of course everyone wants to come to America. And our family did. But life was good on the island. Like, I don't think people grasp that. Like, we had it set. And granted, like, yeah, it's still a developing country. Like, there's a lot of like setbacks, but like, life was good. Like, we were literally living on a beach, like no cell service. So that's also a plus, right?
Oh, for sure.
And like economically stable. In fact, we were very like not very well to do, but we were very privileged in the setting of Tonga. We were able to help communities there. And then you transfer to America where grandma like couldn't bring all of her kids, right? Because they both had to work full time, right? So someone we know who got to stay behind and then followed after, but I think it was for his benefit.
Wow, that was beautifully said, Eliza. Truly, I think there is conversation about providing opportunities to your children by coming to America, the American dream, but staying here is also just as hard. Leaving the comfort of your culture, of people who look like you, and then all of a sudden you become not necessarily an outcast, but an outsider. And that's truly hard. And navigating the language barrier, it's really hard to think about. And also, just like you said, our grandparents had decent jobs in Tonga, and then coming here and having to work blue collar jobs, that must have been extremely hard. That's something to keep in mind, you know, like we're grateful for all of that. Gosh, I'm already a team member of Team Cry, so I don't want to cry thinking of all this, but it's also empowering to think that like we could do our grandparents proud.
Sometimes though, when I go visit grandma, I'm like, you just want me to rub your feet. Like, like you love people that rub your feet. You don't care what I do. You just want to make sure that you get rolled to the left and rolled to the right and that your toenails are clipped. And I'm like, okay, well, if I knew that all along, maybe I would have known. But like, I'm like, okay. I just look around, and I'm sure you found this in your own education where like people are like, oh, like I'm pursuing this or I'm pursuing this. Like my dad's so-and-so. And like there's this family pressure to like upkeep a legacy.
Yeah.
And like in the same sense, we're upkeeping a legacy, but like, I think if push comes to shove, and I don't know if you've experienced this, I won't speak in your behalf, but I think like if I decided to like, well, I won't say I decided. Let's say the medical school decided to leave me. If the medical school was like, you're done, I think my family would be like, you know what? That's okay, you know? And I'd be like, yeah, and I'm going back to Tonga and I'm going to revamp our house. Like, I think there's still this support, right?
Yeah.
When you migrate, family is all you got, you know? And it's your connections that you got, right? Like, I remember my dad saying, like, when they got off the plane, like, who's picking you up, you know? If it's not family, it's someone your family knows or someone your family knows that knows somebody else. Like, it's all about, and I hate to use this word in this context, but it is about a network, right? And people like use that commercially now. But what it really means is community and people who love and care about you and are willing to sacrifice for you for your betterment. And now we've like used it in the terms of like network and stuff like that, but it has its origins in love. And I just want to clarify that. I think in that context, it's not a pressure to succeed. I don't feel like I need to do the migrant legacy sacrifice good. I need to do good by it. It's more like, I know it can be done. I know I've got it in me to do this stuff, despite everyone here telling me it can't be done, and it can't be done by someone like you. Or is that something like I just fill out like everyone's out to get me? Like, do you ever feel like I know it can be done because I've seen people in my family and in my history compete and complete harder tasks or harder goals and ambitions, so this can be done, you know, even though it feels like it's impossible?
I've experienced that feeling of everyone having it out for you, especially in classrooms where no one looks like you. And although it is isolating, you do have that comfort of people you know and your family doing harder tasks. But you say it's a good thing, and I like that amazes me, because so maybe I'm looking at it negatively and I should look at
I want to hear
it more in a
what you have to
positive
say.
view, but I think it's truly so hard. And I honestly want to hear what you have to say about it, because for our listeners, Eliza is incredibly intelligent and she's amazing. You are also the first in our family to attend medical school. Like, that's a huge accomplishment. And how do you feel about this?
I think I like a challenge, and of course, like medical schools turned out to be far more challenging than I anticipated. It's almost turned to be punishing, right? Like, I feel like we were talking before this, but like it's turned to be very not just like difficult or hard, or like I think a lot of people use those adjectives to describe it, but it's been like it's felt cruel almost at times, like senselessly difficult, senselessly competitive. I guess that's kind of just when I turned back to like our community and our family. Like, there's like a whole group of 6 of us, right, at the U. But like, that's when I turned to them and I'm like, can this be done? And they're like, oh, absolutely. And I'm like, I don't know, but if you think so, like, I'll keep going, because I'll turn to our family and be like, I don't know what I'm doing. And it's kind of like, I think of this scene in The Incredibles where I forget the costume designer, but she's talking to Elastigirl, the mom, and she's like, pull yourself together. Like, we have done harder things. We have done like things that have challenged us. We have done things like, this is not it. This is not where we break. Not on this. Like, and so I'm like, okay, you're right. Like, I can pull myself together. I'm gonna get through this. I don't know how. I don't think you know how either, but I'm gonna try.
So our grandma is Edna mode. Our family has done super hard things, but I find what we're doing to be also hard. And maybe it's because both of us are first gen, but I think our parents have a hard time relating to our difficulties. Like, you didn't have to build a church so you can study it. But it's still hard, and I love my parents, but I don't think they could tell you what classes I'm taking or what has to be done to apply to medical school or graduate school. And so I still find it pretty isolating and difficult in a different way. Maybe that's just me being selfish, but
no, it's so true, because like, you go to this community, right? You're like part of the medicinal chemistry, you're part of the medical school, you're part of the biology department. People are like, see, this is your major. This is where like people who love biology, people who love like the human body come to congregate and learn. And then you look around and you're like, I don't know if these are my people, but like, okay. And then you like go back to your people and you're like, today we learned about this, and it was so hard, and I think about this, and they're like, yeah, that's great. Did you clean the bathroom though? And it's like, bro, like, you don't get me. Like, your professional environment can't grasp you. Your personal life also doesn't totally grasp you. And so you kind of just get to like, I mean, pun intended, live on your own island of like, I know me and I know what I'm going through, but it's hard because that like, you can only source validation from certain sources,
Right. I like this term that you've coined of compassionate, not competitive. We don't like competitive. Compassionate ambition, and to help each other, because we can all make it. Yeah.
And maybe it's because like we still have like the migrant rose-colored glasses on, where we're like, the land of American dreams, like we all can make it. We can all be happy. We can all, have enough health insurance and make enough money, and everyone's invited to the feast, And so maybe like I'm still stuck in like hee land, but in reality it's like, you welcome to America. Put your working boots on. I think it's fascinating how systems and institutions are transforming into these more like, they use a lot of these terms that to me are just like translations of like community, right? Like, oh, you need to network. Oh, you need to build a community, right? Oh, you need to find a mentor. So you mean I just need a good auntie? Like, okay. Like, okay, like, and it's more holistic too, right? That's another term they use. Like, we take a holistic view, where we want you to be a holistic human. You're not just a student. And I'm like, that's exactly how it is on the island. Like it doesn't, yeah, sure you might be my doctor, but I know where you're from, and I know that you don't know how to fish, right? So like I'm considering you holistically, right? And then here they like it's holistically in the sense of like you have hobbies outside of this, you know? And like to me it's just like we're kind of, I feel like we are taking, I don't consider myself part of the system. I'm a vigilante of the system. But like I do think systems are taking these terms and these ideas and these really like profound resources that oppressed and underrepresented communities have like found and utilized and have implemented them into like, I guess, the day-to-day of like what a corporation might do or what a institution might do or what a curriculum might do, right? And it's like, oh, funny how the tides turn back.
Yeah.
There's more to us. Like I would never discount your identity, even if it's not being like seen or recognized or like valued, or you feel isolated because of it, because maybe in 10 or few years, they're going to start talking about, you know, things that felt so unique to you, but are actually like incredible resources that they've seen to be very helpful. That's kind of my like thinking out loud, because I don't know how we change it. I just know that like taking pride in your identity and like your culture isn't so bad. I think people think like, oh, I don't want to be prideful. I'm willing to like give up who I am and like where I belong to kind of fit the mold. But it's like the mold changes, and it's actually strange how it's included some parts of like our identity as Pacific Islanders recently.
With regards to your identity of being a Pacific Islander, do you ever feel that you don't belong in both identities as a Pacific Islander and then as a medical student? Because I personally feel that there's a stigma towards Pacific Islanders pursuing higher education and that not being Pacific Islander culture. That's what I've experienced. Have you ever felt that way? And I just struggle to feel Pacific Islander, even though that I am. Like, I know I am.
I'm like, check out the skin tone.
Yeah.
No, I'm like, it sure seems to be enough for some people to get angry. I think it's enough for me to consider myself a Pacific Islander. But I do think that there's this idea that like you're whitewashed if you are like pursuing things that are not necessarily like, you know, if you care about things that are like maybe a little more esoteric, you know, you're kind of like, how Polynesian are you really? You know, I bet you don't eat the pig, you know, kind of thing. And you're right, I don't eat the pig, but it's kind of, it's looking at me. That's why. But something that I think about when I'm like, am I a Pacific Islander in this space? I think about how Tonga has the highest PhD per capita. Granted, because we're a small island, but we have the most PhDs per capita. And I'm like, so it actually seems like getting doctorates is part of the culture. I'm just continuing what's been going on, you know?
Yes.
I try not to think about it too much, because I think you can definitely go down a tailspin, but I refute, and I absolutely refuse this idea that like, you know, we have these huge minds of the Renaissance in Europe. And I'm like, yeah, that's great. I'm sure they were doing good things. Galileo, like, I'm not going to throw hands with you. Da Vinci, I recognize your work, but I think you're foolish, and I think you're naive if you don't think those things were happening on an island in the Pacific Ocean. Pacific Islanders are just as much of and educated as just as much of teachers and healers and professors and academics as the next population. You don't make it uncolonized into the 21st century on a remote Pacific island by doing nothing, right? This is in our bones, and I guess more importantly, it's in our minds.
I think that was beautifully said, Eliza, and I'm excited to see you contribute to all of these numbers.
We'll see. You might see me contributing to the decrease of cassava on the Tongan Islands. All right. Well, thank you everyone for tuning in. And thank you, Keziah, so much for being on this podcast with me and exploring my identity, I guess. I appreciate that. I want to encourage everyone to check out our Instagram, Bundle of Hers, and our website as well. And please subscribe wherever you podcast.